So we are back at a house in Sherman Oaks, California that I haven't visited in it's probably like a year since I did it, and I've added a little bit more. But it's a wonderful house. And what these people wanted from the beginning is they had this gorgeous olive tree and they had a little bit of ground cover. So their whole vibe was to have this kind of prairie park meadowy kind of thing. Okay, so come in and see. I'm so happy to be here. It's been a while since I'm here and it feels and looks so beautiful. We took away all the shrubs. They did have a swing that was shoved back in there, and we kind of used that as our feature. I don't think anyone really sits on it, but you will see how much we incorporated it into this landscape. So this landscape is all about kind of wild, kind of native, kind of prairie, and at the same time, California Mediterranean because of that giant and old olive tree. This neighborhood was an olive grove. So down every house in here just about has one of these giant old olive trees, and they're like a feature of this neighborhood. So we all love Diamondia. It has green and white. It's variegated with a little yellow flower. Very, very weedy ground cover. If you're going to use Diamondia, which is quite groovy, you must be open to knowing it's going to be a mix of weeds because nobody can keep up with it the way the weeds get in there. The good and the bad news. The good news is you'll be fully covered in green. The bad news is you'll never have pure Diamondia. Okay, so come, let's look at some of the plants that we have in the strip right here. So this is the strip that's on the street. So this strip belongs to the city actually, but the city makes sure you take care of it. So they did have this big tree here. We took it out. It was so wet and messy and mushy. I don't know if it was an elm maybe. But we just took and used a few different kinds of plants that we've used throughout the garden in here. This was covered in Diamondia. Now it's basically covered in grass. I haven't been here in a while, like I said, but looking at it from right here, which you should look up close, you'll see when the soil is very, very wet. But you can see nothing is growing here. So today when I came here, the homeowner said, Alicia, we want to put some more plants in here because this is like the third time this hasn't worked. But as I pointed out to him, not even the weeds are growing here. So for this area, I'm going to try to talk them into maybe using some rocks or some gravel. Because if you've tried to plant 3 times and nothing's growing there, it's over. So this is a lovely shady, it can take a lot of shade, which right now there isn't a lot of shade, but this does get a little bit, lots of the trees fill in here. And this is called Dianella. It's not actually a grass, but it looks like a grass and it grows like a grass. Quite a few different kinds of Dianella. This one's just a blue one, and it makes a beautiful blue little flower, which is gonna start coming right here. Next to it is something called festival grass. And this is in the cordyline family. It's a fantastic plant, but it's all about the color and just this kind of zenny leaf. Next to that, we have a bit of struggling lantana, which makes me realize that A, I think there's way too much water because lantana doesn't like that much water, and B, it likes beating sun, and this is not getting beating sun. Here's a kind of a little daisy that I think needs to go. That's another good thing about coming back a year later. You see what makes it, what doesn't make it, what's gonna stay and what's not gonna stay. And once you start having like a beautiful landscape and you look at something like this, you realize we don't need it. I mean, we hate to throw out anything, but we don't need it. One of the features in the front, which needs a little love because it does not love winter, and we're just coming out of it, one of my all-time favorite, Vitex Purpurea. You can see it's starting to get its big things up here, its plumes. But I want you to come in a little and I'm gonna show you some disease on this little plant. On this Vitex, since it is just coming into spring, it's still chilly at night here, but there is something all over the leaves on here which gives me pause. If you see them, they're full of dots. I don't exactly know what those dots are, but I'm also gonna say that all the leaves and the flowers look pretty healthy. So it could be cold weather, I'll keep my eye on that, but I will recommend that we do some kind of systemic drench. And that is something that goes, you pour it in there and it goes down into the roots. It can work, there's a little bit of fertilizer in there, there's a little bit of plant vitamins in there, and that's what I would suggest for that. There was a really big tree in the middle of their yard here, and it was really big. It kind of covered over everything, and it was an ornamental pear. And so we had planted around it this kind of thing too. It was sitting kind of right in over here where this euphorbia is. And she called me one Saturday morning in a panic. The entire tree had fallen into the yard. I mean, it was huge. I have pictures of it and I'll show you. It fell on everything, just crushed everything. So we pulled out. It took my guys like a whole day to cut it all up and take it out. And we patched around it and we brought in a 15-gallon tree and it changed everything in here. So it opened up a lot. This whole thing was shady from the pear tree. And as you can see, it looks like some spa in here. So we did use a bunch of different plants throughout. So it's kind of, it's not like this little neat little garden. It's more of like a park setting. We used flowers that I knew were water-wise, that had lots of color. She wanted lots of color. That had lots of color, that would flower most of the year, and they didn't care too much if things were deciduous, meaning they'd go away in the winter. So I'm just gonna point out a few of my favorite things and how good they're doing. So these African daisies are just, they'd take over if we let them. Very easy to keep up with them. All you have to do with African daisies is lift them, as you can see, and take off all the crusty underneath. So we talked to her gardener, I showed him how to do it. He gets an A+ because he's doing such a nice job in here. You should know, anything with a gray leaf takes less water. This takes less water, this licorice. This daisy takes less water. You can see it's gray. So just good to know. FYI, a lot of lavenders have grayer leaves. They're all water-wise. So just a little thing to share with. I'm also gonna share with you over here about these beautiful African daisies that are sitting on this Ajuga down here. And so the Ajuga down here has a lot of like bug bites all over it. I think it's because this daisy is sitting on it. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna take down off some of this stuff I'm cutting. Part of the problem here, like I say, you know, everything needs its own space to breathe. So this African daisy is literally sitting on this Ajuga. But I want you to see how I'm gonna lift these up. You see they get so messy, and I'm just gonna go down, and I'm gonna cut them out. So this Ajuga, I can move this. The thing about these is you can literally move them. But I'm gonna do it so this has an opportunity to have its moment. I'm gonna move this a little bit more here. And so even if it's a little crusty that you look into right here, in 2 days, you won't even notice it. I won't completely cut it off, but I'm gonna give this a little bit of room, pull out some of this, and in a few days, this will come to life as long as it can breathe. It's still beautiful and you can still feel it, but it's filled with holes. So I have two thoughts. The first thought was it's holes because this is sitting on this, but then I see nothing sitting on this one. And I think it's just been eaten to death. I think this too should have a systemic drench. But if you look closely in here, you can see there's lots of new growth in here. This little beautiful thing is gonna be a flower with a bunch of weeds too. And the new growth is not eaten. So if anyone sees whoever's seeing my Ajuga leaves, you can see that something is eating at them. I don't know if it's a snail or if it's a worm, but if anyone out there has Ajuga and they have experienced whatever this is, we'd love to know what it is. I think whatever it is though, the systemic drench will take care of it. I usually look on the back of leaves and I don't see anything that looks abnormal. So I don't know, but it's looking so good and I'm really happy about this Ajuga. I try to use it as much as I can because look at this color. I mean, this is some juicy, this is like black. They call this one chocolate chip. Dark chocolate, delicious. We use some other ground covers in here. Like this is called Gravilla, which is a lovely plant with a little flower right here. Funky little flower in there. There are a shitload of weeds in here. As you can see, if you don't keep up with them, they will take over. So you always gotta kind of separate things, open them up and see where things are and pull out the weeds. These are called oxalis. You gotta know your weeds, people. This is oxalis, and before you know it, it will take over the entire flippin' neighborhood. Okay. Another fabulous plant with a load of weeds around it is this called chocolate chip Ajuga. Look at that flower, it's so beautiful. So you can see that in there, but you can also see that the weeds, this oxalis, is taking up. So when you see this, you gotta get in here, lift this stuff, and pull them. Because if you don't, you won't have a plant left. The weeds are way bossier than the flower. So, you know, like life, as I always say, maintenance matters. You gotta pick out your weeds, whether they be the weeds of your office, the weeds of your love life, the weeds in your garden, need to be blacked out and clean. You gotta know what you can live with and what you can't. Like I said, on the ground cover, you gotta kind of live with the weeds. But inside of your plants where you can kind of see if you just lift them up, you don't have to live with that. Ain't nobody got time for weeds. Look at that, that was one pull in 10 minutes, 10 seconds, I mean. You know, a Lucky Charm has how many? 4? You'll never find 4 on this. This is 3.
Floor-leaf clover.
Floor-leaf clover, yeah, Lucky Charm. So, and they're very easy to clean and pull. They will come right back, but at least if you keep up with them. So this is a beautiful ground cover that is doing really nice here, just starting to flower all over. Come back next week, you won't even believe how much purple. Little chub purples are coming out of there.
Little chubs.
Little chubs. You can see the Gravilla over here as well. This one's flowering. This is so nice. This is another one you want to kind of lift up and clean under. They're doing it. You can see they got all the crusties out of here. I'm so excited about their maintenance guy because he's really keeping up with them. This is another form of Dianella, another shade grass that's not really grass, but this one is a variegated Dianella. It too has a lovely, the blue flower on that is like a really juicy blue. Another tree that I use a lot is called a Duranta. They're cutting it nicely too. You gotta get under here and take out some of that crust you can see in here. But it'll flower like all spring and winter. The butterflies love it, the birds love it. Fabulous tree, purple flower and fabulous. This is the euphorbia. Although actually I think this is a smoke tree. Not a euphorbia. This is a smoke bush, deciduous. So it's just starting to come back. Look at the color on here. You can see that the wind is very strong here where I told you the pear tree fell down. They already lost a big chunk here. I can see it broke. But it's got all kinds of life on it. She is a beauty. And I think you won't even believe what this looks like in 2 weeks. Another understory is the lamb's ear, another plant that you can lift up. Now this one they haven't been as vigorous with, but you see that? You can really get in here and pull these. Makes all the difference in the world if you do. Lift this stuff and get the crusties. The more you lift and remove the crust, the longer and happier your plants will be. That is such a lesson in life. The more crust you take out of your life, the happier life is. The more crust you have in your life, you got a big ass crusty life. So come on. Now this, I think we could clean it up a little bit better, but for now it's working. So this is a licorice plant. I love this plant. I use it as much as possible. It's very vigorous and it takes over. So most people cut it into a ball. I personally don't love it cut into a ball, but at this moment, once you start, it's very difficult. You see, it's like one big piece. Look at that, it's like a tooth. So it's gonna be hard to change that. That's gonna kind of stay like that. I will come back though. I will go in here with the landscaper. I'm not gonna do that right now, but I am gonna show you something. Come here. If you go in the middle in here and start pulling out some of the like really long ones, it'll at least give it to breathe. And it won't look like such a ball. I like things that look like they can move around a little. So if we just start pulling a little up, I mean, it gets crusty easily. Another one of those hand jobs. But this one is, you kind of need to start cutting that from the beginning a certain way. Not an easy one to come back to and start reshaping. But keep walking. This is Vinca. Very Home Depot plant, but it has its place. What's funny about Vinca is it too is a ground cover, but theirs is so happy it's standing up. But over time, it starts going like that, and it'll start going on the ground. Really good plant. Okay, so I'm pretty faithful to my plants, especially the ones that I love, the givers that I love. So one plant that grows beautiful here, definitely needs you to keep an eye on it, but it's Duranta. Many forms of Duranta. There's only one downside I can really think of, which is that it has thorns. I flippin' hate thorns. They find me. That plant does have thorns, but it comes in a few different colors. The birds love it, the bees love it, the butterflies love it. It fruits, it flowers, and it's evergreen. That's like 10 things on a thing list. So I love that plant. So in colder weather, it gets darker. In sunnier weather, it gets darker. So here is one that turns dark. Here's one that's just green. And here's one that's just bright yellow. So bright yellow is the color of this Duranta. They change colors and textures, but it always has this. Now this one doesn't feel as pokey. It does have pokers because it is a Duranta, but I don't feel it as much. I really like this. You don't see this one as often. But you can see it just has its own story going. But it is the most beautiful color ever. Another one in this family is the tree that I talked about over here called the Duranta tree. They all flower and they all have a fruit. And then the third one that I absolutely love is this one over here. This is one of my most favorite Duranta just because it's so dramatic and I love drama in the garden. What I want you to see is, so I'm almost certain it's a winter thing, but this too has all these polka dotted leaves, but all the new stuff that's coming out of it does not have it. So I'm thinking many of these plants get really wet at night because it's cold, and then sunny in the day, it's warm, and they get all funky, but nothing's hurting them, nothing. They all are healthy and beautiful underneath there. So another one I could systemically drench and give it like some food and just to make it happy, but you can see it's really coming in beautiful. What I love about this plant is it's gonna fill this whole hole of their house on the wall with this color, and you spot this color from 3 days away. So I love anything you spot from 3 days away. Yellow. Love this. Ew, ants everywhere. Shizzy bops. I'm so happy back here. I could just take the rest of my life from this view. And there's something so lovely about swinging. I could sit and figure out the world today. I could pick my own weeds right here, my brain weeds. So you can work on the garden, and then you can sit in a chair and pick your weeds from right out here. Something so lovely about sitting out in nature. The world could be falling apart on me right now, which thank God it's not. But if it were, I wouldn't care. In this little seat, I would not care. Oh, life, bring it on.
Picking your weeds or you picking your nose?
I could pick my weeds, I could pick my nose, I could pick my butt if I needed to. It's so nice and quiet in here. It's really lovely. Beautiful spot to look out into. Another thing they really wanted to use in their yard was their own art. So we love stuff like this because nobody needs to water it. It always looks fabulous and it looks natural. So we put that right in here. It's always moving, it catches the wind. It's so lovely. Plus this blue is such a good color too. Patina blue. And we like it. Remember, yard art needs no water and it's just a lasting statement. It doesn't have a season. It doesn't have a disease. It's fabulous. I recommend it for everybody. We've been finding each other for so long. Oh my God, you scared me. Hi, Toots. Hi, Tootsie Toots. You scared me, Tush. Tushy Tushy. Hi, Zushka. Hi, Nooshka Noosh. Big ol', he's such a nice dog. She, I think her name's a she. Wow, wow, wow. Oh yes, you are so sweet. You're a big sweetie. You're just a sweet, 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 sweet. Oi! You and me been finding each other for so long. Let's look at this greasy thing. When you have a garden like this, when you have a garden like anything actually that has this, you really want to promote like a meditation and Zen garden, which they really wanted, gotta have water. Water is like an MUST must. This is kind of this just like spot that's so juicy. The thing about this thing is it's under this giant beefy ass pine tree, which is really messy. But they keep it clean. You know, underneath here needs to be cleaned out every once in a while. This is so greasy, but it feels so good. I usually like it to make a little bit more noise, and they could, but they aren't into noise. They like it quiet. They like it all in here the way it is. I think it's fabulous. They got this gorgeous pine tree with all of these lights in it. At night, this place is magical. We use the same kind of plants over and over again. 2 different kinds, mostly. Pittosporum and Westringia. So all of the Pittosporum, this one's called Cream de Mint. This one's called Golf Ball. This one's called Silver Sheen. So there's a bunch of different ones in here, all in the same family. And these little Westringias are called Little Gems. Maybe it's called Blue Gem. But it's so lovely. They all look really, I'm gonna talk to them about the way they're cutting these a little, because not the best cut ever, but the feeling is here. It doesn't even matter if they were all smushed and They feel so good together. This whole vibe in here, you could come in here, it wouldn't matter if you literally just learned you were going to jail for 10 years. You could come here and be like, I can do this. So this job was like that too. Even before we put all this stuff in, some of this stuff was here. We added the plants, but the vibe was here, the fountain. It was so good. You just come back here. There's places that you feel the energy in. The energy at this house is truly magical. The people are very cool. And the trees, they got some really old trees, and trees put off this energy and set a tone. That front tree that has that old gnarly and twisted olive is so juicy. And then this fabulous pine with all these lights hanging from it. It just sets this completely tone, and it doesn't even matter what's going on, you would feel that. So I love anything that does that, that commands attention. Trees like this command attention. Water commands attention. It gives it where you're like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do when I'm in here. It's fabulous. I love that feeling. And I love to put that in wherever anyone will let me, like a purposeful garden where I'm gonna go to have a nervous breakdown, or a garden where I'm gonna go and sit and contemplate life, or I'm gonna go and cut a bunch of flowers to make a, bouquet. I love gardens, anything actually, with purpose and intention. This is lovely, though.
Do you do this whenever you visit a client,
Yes,
right?
yes, I do. Yes, I do. I come here and breathe whenever I come here. Even if I'm like have a crew of whatever, I'm quietly sitting here contemplating life. Because why wouldn't I? I take advantage of good spots where there's something to be and do and sit. Whoa. Wow, Zach. Hey.
Hey.
Oh, hey. Hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Look at that neck. It's kind of penisy, isn't it?
Can't help yourself, huh?
I couldn't. Look at that thing. That is like some old, weird thing coming out of there. Look at all that foreskin.
Oh,
You are-
he didn't like that.
No, it's got like a turtleneck. Creeper. Get some close-ups, baby. Look at though, he has like a prehistoric butt. Look at the shingles hanging off the back of that.
Dinosaur.
He's a dinosaur, those feet? Holy Scheiselstein. Ooh, look at the crusty eyeball. Ooh,
Really cool.
he's really cool.
Alright. I got it. Hi.
Hi, thanks for coming to my party.
Ew, crotch party.
Crotch party.